Yarr! Welcome back to Dirty 20. And with that, today we're going to be talking about pirates in honor of producer Jay's great-great-grandfather, who was an actual pirate. Let's get on with the show. When I started DMing, one of the first ideas for a campaign that I really wanted to run was pirates. The adventure and swashbuckling elements of the theme really make it ripe for D&D adventuring, and I honestly have a big soft spot for those pirate movies. I really like them.
Oh, bugger.
So, first off, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of advice that I wish I'd had when I first started running a pirate campaign. And then we're going to take a look at the Wizards of the Coast published book, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. First piece of advice is keep underwater combat simple. If you take a look at the Player's Handbook on page 198, there is about a paragraph and a half on underwater combat, which to my mind is really kind of not enough. But you really have to understand the consequences of doing it. For example, the fact that every attack has a disadvantage whilst underwater unless it's a specific weapon. I'll be honest with you, I tried running things rules as written, but I found it really slowed the game down. It made, the players miss more often than they hit, which is not fun when it comes to D&D combat. So I would consider how you use the rules as written underwater combat. Also, forget trying to implement kind of different levels. When I first kind of thought about it, I was like, well, what if someone's, coming from below and there's different heights, and flight is rare enough that you can kind of keep track of one or two characters that are flying. But when it comes to everybody having to consider what level they're at, it's just way too confusing. So again, keep underwater combat really nice and simple. The second piece of advice that I would give is setting is everything. Give your players a really cool base of operations with lots of intrigue and lots of things for them to do so that they don't have to spend all their time out on sea. But equally, give the region that they're in and the islands or whatever, give them lots of character and give them reasons for wanting to leave the town. It's really a balancing act of the location that you're setting them up in and the opportunities for adventure and mishaps on the seas. This may seem obvious, but I made the very bad mistake of first giving my players a great little location with opportunities to sail off and do things, and then managing to get them straight into a dungeon for several sessions, which basically completely killed the whole pirate vibe. But, it's something to keep into consideration. Number 3, Ghosts of Saltmarsh has some rules for ship-to-ship combat and traveling on the sea, things like this. I would suggest getting to grips with them very, very well because they're not the clearest, and we're going to talk about it in a minute when we take a look at the book itself. But yes, definitely look up the rules of ship-to-ship combat and ship stat blocks and things like that, and make sure you understand them. So here we have it. First released in 2019, this book gives us a really nice amount of useful stuff. And I'm a big fan of the artwork. Most of these books just have a really, really high level of quality. But the first thing that it gives us, which is fantastic and means we're not going to have to do a lot of prepping once we get a good handle on this book, is the seaside town of Saltmarsh. Now, originally, Saltmarsh was a part of Greyhawk, which was the original setting that Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, made. And I am a really big fan of one particular thing on page 39, and that is placing the adventure. Now, it's originally from Greyhawk, but here they are very helpfully telling you where you might place it if you play in an Eberron game, or a Forgotten Realms game, or even a Mystara game. Now, what basically saying that whatever your setting is, you can place it in one of these. You can place the town of Saltmarsh in your setting, no problem. So, for example, I play a lot in the Forgotten Realms. And here it says, Forgotten Realms, midway between Waterdeep and Neverwinter, the town of Saltmarsh and its hardy inhabitants endure both winter storms and the Mere of Dead Men to the south. Because of the politics churning in Thornhold on the far side of the marsh, help is often slow to come, and so the townsfolk have become quite self-reliant. The smugglers could be from Luskan, and their selling weapons to lizard folk could be connected to deeper goals than simply lining their pockets. So a nice little thing to kind of give you a starting point if you're playing in the Forgotten Realms. There is a lot of really fantastic stuff in here, particularly things like politics and the factions of Saltmarsh. Any good kind of town or city needs to have different factions, for there to be conflict, right? The surroundings of the area as well are all in here, which is nice. You got some nice maps. All of it is going to make your life so much easier, because the prepping, the foundations are there for you in the book. So essentially, you could go from there, that first chapter, which deals with the seaside town of Saltmarsh, and just kind of create your adventure hooks, and just go from there. Use that as the foundation. However, there are 7 classic adventures, dungeons, probably closer to dungeon, in the book, starting with The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, which I think are actually pretty good. I've read through a lot of them, and I like the pacing. I like the use of the Sahuagin as villains, who are, like classic D&D monsters. And I like this in the same way that I like the Yawning Portal, right? In that you can absolutely do some of these, you can do none of them, you can take one and put it in the middle of your campaign because you want to change things up. All of it is super, super useful. However, where this book really gets top-notch, and I would say is a pretty much a must-have if you want to run a pirate campaign or a seafaring campaign, is Appendix A of Ships and the Sea, where you will find, for example, stat blocks for ships. Now, they say sample ships because obviously they can't give you hundreds of them. However, I do wish they'd given more than what they gave, because it's just it's kind of not enough, and there's always kind of that doubt, at least where I'm concerned, of making my own up and feeling like, whoa, I totally overdid it or underdid it, and they sink on the first voyage. But the point is, they're here. If you take a good look through them, you'll get an idea for the kinds of things that would be required if you wanted to make your own. There's also lots about officers and crew and positions in on the ship itself. These crew members can do certain things, which is quite cool, whether it's improving morale and making the ship go faster, fixing the ship, all these kinds of things. You also get upgrades for your ship, which is really nice. kind of like a headquarters or a base, right? Now, ships in combat. This is very important. This and travel at sea as well. Understanding these rules are very, very, very important. And I would say that I never felt like I got to grips with them when I was playing in my piratey campaign. But having said that, they are here, and it's definitely worth reading them and rereading them. So then you also have lots about ocean environments and underwater environments and hazards, different encounters that you might come up against. Again, great tools. You don't have to roll on these tables. Just, using them for inspiration is often worthwhile, just having a look through them. And to give you ideas for your own encounters. So I definitely think pretty cool. There are also underwater locations, and what I like here is that they often give you some adventure hooks, right? So like story hooks, Saltmarsh story hook there, for example. So going through these, you can very, very easily, they've clearly done this so that you can just create your own encounters, so you don't have to follow the adventure if you don't want to, or the adventures can be supplementary to your campaign. But all in all, a very, very, very useful book. Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So there we have it. I'd also like to give a shout out to a series of books called Freeport. And this is a system agnostic campaign setting, meaning that it's not tied to any particular either RPG system or location, whether it's Forgotten Realms or Eberron or what have you. So it's a very handy kind of toolkit. There's a lot of books on it, and I believe it was originally written for Pathfinder, but I could be wrong about that. But definitely check it out. The great thing about Freeport as compared to Saltmarsh is that although Saltmarsh has lots of very useful stuff for a kind of piratey campaign, it's lacking a little bit of the piratiness that you might want. And Freeport has it in spades. It's all about, swashbuckling pirates. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We really appreciate it, as always. Have you ever run a pirate-themed campaign? What were some of the tools that you used that you thought were really cool? Like and subscribe, and as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. @MouthLaVictoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am EnanoLVP, and our producer is Jazzy J. Cherot.